Grenadier. Absolutely awful. Who is the most overpowered troop in Warships? In today's video, Skull Army, we're going to be doing a Boom Beach Warships troop tier list video ranking the best to worst troops in Warships. Now, before we begin, with Warships Season 43, Return of the Mech, wrapping up here, I want to give a massive congratulations to everybody out there that gave it their all, and of course to those that did get their top 500 trophy for the first time. Big shout out to players like Andromeda, players like Mojo Jojo, Sup, players like Blazed Beard, and I know there's many others out there as well, so congratulations to the Skull Army and friends. Today's video is going to be the Boom Beach Warships Troops Tier List Maker. Now, I do want to point out that we will be ranking just the Warship troops, okay? So we're not going to be talking about proto troops. We're not going to be talking about heroes, just our standard troops that we have readily available in Warship. So for today's Warship Troops Tier List video, we're going to be covering, you know, the Bombardier, Cryoneer, Grenadier, Heavy, Laser Ranger, Mech, Heavy Chopper, Medic, Rifleman, Rocket Chopper, Scorcher, Seeker, Tank, Warrior, and Zooka. So no hidden warriors, no cryo bombardiers, no melon heads, no cryo tanks, just standard warship troops. Now, I did recently put a poll on my channel. Actually, we put a poll on my channel as of, one second here, let's just get back to main game. We did put a poll on my channel as of 17 hours ago, and there is 392 votes on this poll as of 17 hours ago. And the question is, who is the most OP? Now, OP does stand for overpowered troop in Boom Beach Warships. Now, we've got four options here. The Seeker, aka Robot, the Heavy Chopper, the Yellow Bus, the Grenadier, sorry, the Bombardier, so the old man, or the Laser Ranger, aka Bubblegum. And honestly, an astonishing 3 out of 392 votes, 64% have voted for the Yellow Bus, aka the Heavy Chopper here. And it's pretty cool how literally the Seeker, the Bombardier, and the Laser Ranger are all literally within 1% of each other here. So the Bombardier is actually at the bottom at 11%, then the Seeker at 12%, and actually a little bit more people actually think that the Laser Ranger is a little bit more overpowered than the Seeker. So I think that's really cool, getting a little bit of insight from the Skull Army. I also do want to point out some of these awesome comments here, just to give some insight of why everyone is leaning in the direction of the Heavy Chopper. But if you played Boom Beach Warships, I'm pretty sure you can pretty much figure this one out on your own here. So unknown people here. The ability of Heavy Chopper to deal impressive damage along with spawning of heavies continuously makes it super OP. A 10-neck vids. It seems that the Heavy Chopper should be for 4 engine room and see how far people can get with them. Also, the Bombardier's Laser Ranger should be a part of the next season. It should be called Getting Stacked. Now, Fallen Reaper, holy smokes here. Beautiful insight here. Massive shout out to Fallen Reaper. Yellow Bus and Laser Ladies. So, the Heavy Chopper is literally a direct upgrade to a boat of heavies, and it drops more alongside the bus itself, having tons of HP, hit points, and the only con is just a small GBE cost. LR, the Laser Rangers, can literally mow down a line of defenses in just a few seconds with just one boat of them. An army of Laser Rangers can clean an entire base within seconds. In the main base and Warships, the low HP and fast movement speed is the con, but they are easy to manage. That's actually some really good insight on the Heavy Chopper and the Laser Ranger. Thank you, Fallen Reaper. As we continue, the other two have problems that are hard to manage, or the trade for using them isn't worth it at times. So, Bombardier is really powerful when it came out, and still is. Long range, high damage troop, and is an all-purpose troop. But the main thing is that the problem about them is that they're slow. It can guarantee clearing a base, but its slow movement speed and retargeting made them obsolete at times against Laser Rangers, but it's situational at best depending on the season start and layout. I love that breakdown. As we continue to the Seekers here, Seekers are a really good troop. It's the faster engine destroying troop, but their only problem is that it's entirely situational. Depending on the base layout and the skill ceiling, is really high in the late game to end game. Really good, but really hard to use as well. Hard to master. I love that. So Fallen Reaper, I just want to give you a big shout out for the awesome feedback there. You know, Ryan J, thumbs up, buddy. Of course, Heavy Chopper, yep. Apuz, the yellow bus, love it. Sympathy, the bus. Cold Cosmo, the school bus. So I think it's pretty safe to say that everybody is pretty much leaning in the direction of the heavy bus, the heavy chopper being the most overpowered troop.
Surprise,
in Boom Beach Warships. So that's pretty cool right there. With that being said, getting a good insight from the Skull Army, we're going to make our way back over to the tier list now, and we're going to make our rankings with regards to the best to worst troops in Boom Beach Warships. And here we go. Now, I didn't even have to put this together. This was already a template already out there, so I'm not sure exactly who was responsible for making this template, but thank you, because it is pretty much open there for... excuse me, it is pretty much open there for anyone to use. So, all right, guys, so we're going to start things off here with the Bombardier here, our good friend, the Bomba. Now, the Bomba was in our poll with regards to being, you know, one of the more overpowered troops. So I'm definitely kind of leaning back and forth between S tier and A tier. But you know what? Due to the rankings on the poll that I did put on my channel and how the Bombardier was actually 4th out of the 4 troops that we ranked, it is an overpowered troop, but a majority of my community definitely, well, no, I shouldn't say a majority, a little bit more definitely seem to think that there are troops that are more overpowered than the Bomba. So some people might disagree with me on this, but I'm going to put the Bombardier in the A tier. You know what? We had some good examples there from Fallen Reaper. You know, it is a long-ranged, high DPS troop. It definitely clears bases. You know, the biggest downfall is definitely, without a doubt, its movement speed. It is definitely a little bit on the slower side, but you are pretty much guaranteed to clear an entire base here. So now we're going to make our way over to the Cryoneer here. Now, the Cryoneer is a support troop here. Now, there was a time in Warships where the Cryoneer did actually do incredibly well here. Season 2 for my OG Warship players, if they remember the CHZ, the Cryoneer, the heavy, the Zooka meta, the cheese meta, Cryoneer was a big part of that. But unfortunately, as with Warships has added more troops as the seasons have progressed, it has kind of made the Cryoneer obsolete. So, you know what? You can still see it every now and then kind of thrown in there, especially when Supercell does put it early on the tech tree, you know, whether they're forcing players to use it or not. So we're not going to put it as the absolute worst, but we are going to put it in the C tier. Grenadier. Absolutely awful. I'm putting the Grenadier in the D tier here. This is an incredibly painful troop to watch, especially if you're not using Grenadiers. There's very small windows or pockets in Warships where the Grens will shine, and surprisingly, in Boom Beach Warship Season 43, we did have the Grenadier shine for a little bit in 4-engine room. Some players were able to unlock the Grens early, and that was a ticket to Diamond. So there is a place for Grens every now and then in Warships, but for the most part, you know what, they're a painfully slow troop. You know what, sometimes they do have a mind of their own where, you know, they'll run in range of defenses, and just, you know, overall, you know, you need to make sure you're supporting them with medics or, you know, Dr. Kavan at best. But yeah, honestly, probably one of the worst troops in Warships, my opinion here. The heavy. Now, some people might be disagreeing with me on this, but I'm going to be putting the heavy in the A tier here. Now, the heavy, it's not the most OP troop, but when it does come down to early warship gameplay and heavy rushing, generally for that 3, 4, and sometimes even 5 engine room gameplay, kind of fizzles out by the time we generally do get to 5 ER. But the heavy rush has always been a dominant early meta in Boom Beach Warships. So whether you're just rushing with the heavies on their own or you're supporting them with brick and battle orders, the heavies can be a force to be reckoned with in early boom beach warships. Not to mention the pairing them as a meat shield with the Zookas when you're doing your heavy Zooka smoking attacks to the back of layouts and just pulling that backdoor sally on them. So heavies can definitely come in handy in warships, and they are definitely probably ranked a little bit higher in my opinion here as well. The Laser Ranger. Holy smokes. We're going to be putting Laser Ranger here up in S tier. Now, another reason why we're going to be putting Laser Ranger here up in S tier, especially better than the Bomba and the Heavy here, is the fact that, you know, it is a newer addition to Warships. Warship Season 41, I believe 40 or 41. It's only been like 2 or 3 seasons since we've had the Laser Ranger added to Warships. A big part of that was also from the November 22 update to Boom Beach, but the Laser Ranger is incredibly dangerous when you do know how to use her. Now, she is very fragile, okay, but once that troop health comes in, and again, if you are supporting the Laser Ranger with Dr. Kavan, it is just absolutely disgusting, but it's just that it's that ability that they can just mow down defenses like it's nothing. You stack on that troop damage as well, defenses lined up. The Laser Rangers actually deal more damage to the defenses behind the initial defense that they are targeting. It's just how their mechanics work out. So they are disgusting at times. Right now, I think one of the dominant metas, endgame meta in Warships, is Heavy Chopper Laser Ranger with Kavan. So Laser Ranger is definitely a force to be reckoned with, especially with that troop damage. You know what? They are a little bit fragile, but they are easier to manage. Kavan with Second Wind to make sure you're bringing them back. And again, the last couple seasons, we really got a good picture of how the Laser Ranger has changed the dynamics of Warships. So yeah, Laser Ranger, without a doubt, a force to be reckoned with here. The Mech. The Mech. Now, I should be putting this in D tier right now. But I am actually going to be putting the Mech in C tier here alongside our Cryoneer friend. Now, if we did not get that Mech update in November 2022, the same update that the Laser Ranger was introduced, this finally fixed the stunning mechanic from the Mech. Before, the Mech always showcased the animation of, you know, stunning defenses, even though it was obsolete. It was not stunning defenses. Now the Mech actually does stun defenses. So Season 43, Return of the Mech, was a perfect example. Mech was early on the tech tree. They played an early role in Boom Beach Warship Season 43 meta. And again, especially with their stunning mechanism, it does actually move them up a little bit. You know, their DPS is actually pretty good as well, due to the fact that most players, I think, didn't even have to upgrade them this season. They just worked with level 1 mechs until they made their way over to the next troop there. But you know what? If you disagree with me on Mech and C tier, definitely let me know in the comments here. But because of that update in November 22, where their stunning mechanism actually works now, I think that's why it does belong in the C tier. Heavy Chopper. Now, I think this one was absolutely perfectly covered. It's pretty much an extra boat of heavies. You're pretty much dropping a boat of heavies and then an extra boat of heavies on top of that. Not to mention that the chopper itself does deal DPS, damage per second. When the flying troops, the heavy chopper and the rocket chopper, were added to Warships, it was just an absolute game changer. Now I'm going to go back to Fallen Reaper's comment here, because I think he summed it up best here with regards to the heavy chopper. It is literally a direct upgrade to a boat of heavies, and it drops more alongside the bus itself, having tons of hit points. The only con is it's a small amount of GBE to deploy here. So it's pretty much like having 16 heavies, plus the chopper itself does deal damage. Now, heavy bus rush is a real thing. You know, heavy bus and Laser Rangers, heavy bus and Bombardiers, heavy bus and Seekers. I mean, it's a support troop. It is a damage troop. You can use it on its own. You know, the fact that it just keeps pooping out those heavies, and when the chopper itself goes down, it just poops out even more heavies. It is without a doubt a force to be reckoned with, and probably the most overpowered troop in the game. So as we continue now to the medic. So I'm going to be putting medic in the C tier there. Without a doubt, it's not the worst troop in the game. But you know what? There's very small pockets in warships where you're actually going to be using medics. I mean, a boat of medics is not a bad idea. It does heal your troops, but at the same time, you are taking away valuable DPS that is desperately needed in this game. So, you know, very few combos, metas in warships will require medics, but there are, just like the Grenadiers, there are very small pockets, windows in the game where you will find yourself using the medics there. So now as we continue to the Rifleman, the Johnson, we're going to be putting Johnson in B tier here. This is just generally a well-rounded, well-balanced, all-around troop in warships. There's been very, I shouldn't say few, probably more than often times where Riflemen are available early on the tech tree, and some players just think outside the box and they end up going just full Rifleman and Rifleman Swarm. I can recall some players doing this when Flare wasn't readily available. You know, Max Riflemen cover a lot more ground. You know, when they are max level, they deal a fair amount of damage. You know, the medics actually would pair very well with them, you know, if you are running 7 boats of Rifleman, 1 boat of medic, whatever it may be. But yeah, the Rifleman plus Dr. Kavan's Second Wind does revive Rifleman. There's lots of times where, you know, you're spamming Kavan's Second Wind right off the bat on the ramp there just to get that additional DPS, that cannon fodder on the ramp to kind of take away from your heavy choppers or your bombardiers. So overall, I think the Riflemen are incredibly balanced, well-rounded troop, and I think they fit perfectly in the B tier here for the warship troop tier list. The Rocket Choppa. Good old Rocket Chopper. Now, rocket choppers can be absolutely devastating in the right hands, okay? They can be a little bit fragile at times. Sometimes they can even have a mind of their own where they are ignoring flares. And if you have played rocket choppers in the past, there's a good chance, Skull Army, that you have experienced the rocket choppers ignoring flares. With that being said, you know, they pair very nicely with the heavy chopper. Heavy chopper, rocket chopper is just a disgusting combo. And, you know, overall, it's a flying troop, which means that some defenses aren't able to target it. I guess the same can be said about the heavy chopper as well. Now, the rocket chopper isn't really relied on for its support like the heavy chopper. Heavy chopper is pooping out those heavies. You know, it's constantly giving you that meat shield. You know, a lot of players don't actually use the rocket chopper for the additional Zookas that you get at the end when the chopper goes down, where opposed to the heavy choppers, you are actually kind of relying on those heavies when that chopper does go down. So it's pretty much the high volume DPS that these choppers deliver, especially when you are stacking up to that 100 or 150% troop damage. A well-versed rocket chopper player can just decimate a base with these bad boys. So a little bit fragile in the air, but incredibly high on the DPS. You know, paired very well with the heavy chopper, and just in the right hands, just an incredibly versatile troop. So yeah, rocket choppers, we are going to place them in the A tier. The good Scorcher, our good old friend, the Scorcher. Now, believe it or not, we're going to be placing Scorcher in the D tier with our friend, the Grenadier here. Now, the reason why we're doing that, because out of 43 seasons of Warships played, I can honestly recall at least 2 accounts. At least 2 accounts where Scorchers were actually the meta here. I want to give a shout out to, you know, Amy Chan, Sugar, and Angry Bob Ross. I can remember that one season where I'm trying to remember the actual season. I want to say it was like mid-20s, early 30s, where Scorcher was actually a meta and we couldn't believe it. But it's very rare that you'll actually, it's very rare that you will actually see the Scorchers shine in warships. So unfortunately, you know, they are benched most of the time. So we're going to be placing them right down there with our Grens in the D tier. Seeker. Yeah, there's no denying this. Again, Seeker goes right into S tier. This is a overpowered troop. Again, the poll that I did put up on my channel, I think a majority of the community does believe that the chopper, heavy chopper, is a little bit more overpowered than the Seeker, but the Seeker does exactly what it says in its name. It seeks out engine rooms. It literally just directly goes to the ERs, so the skill really kind of falls into you as the player with regard to predicting your path, clearing your shock mines, and of course managing your gunboat energy accordingly. So we're not going to be getting into the debate of whether or not it takes skill to use Seekers. They are an incredibly overpowered troop that definitely belong in S tier, and in the right hands, you know, like I said, with the right scouting, you know, shock mine clearing, GBE management, and plus, you know, a lot of the top global players actually do rely on Seekers. They are without a doubt the fastest troop. If you want to be faster than your opponents, and Warships does come down to speed, Seekers are the way to go. So they definitely belong in S tier there. And of course, as we continue with the tank, it's very rare that we see the tank in Warships, but I mean, it is popping up a little bit more frequently as the seasons do continue. You have players like Dyson Lin that will pretty much always be showcasing videos with tanks every single season. So I'm going to be putting them in the B tier there. You know, not the absolute worst, not the absolute best. You know, I think more of the average players do tend to kind of rely on tanks as well. So I think some people might be disagreeing with me where they think the tanks might be belonging in C tier or even D tier, but I think there are a fair amount of players that do actually use the tanks, and honestly, I do think that you see more use out of the tanks than at least you do out of like the cryos, mechs, you know, medics, grens, and scorchers. But as the seasons progress, I think we might be seeing a switch with the mech and the tank here, with the mech making its way to B tier and the tank downgrading, making its way down to the C tier there. The Warriors come out and play. I would love to put these on S tier, but unfortunately, it's just not the reality. Warriors have a very small window in Warships, and everything on the tech tree needs to line up to make them absolutely shine on this tech tree. You need to have Warriors early, meaning 2 to 3 engine room gameplay, and they pretty much will only shine from 2 to 3, sometimes 4 engine room gameplay. We did have the Hidden Warrior showcased a little bit for Season 43. Hidden Warrior is a proto troop. With that being said, Warriors are incredibly fragile. Once bases start getting dirty, they do not stand a chance. Too many splash, too many mines. So like I said, they do well in Warships, but they also do have a very, very small window, and that window is early ER gameplay. So 2 to 3 to 4 ER gameplay. Once you start getting to 4, 5, 6, and God forbid 7 ER gameplay with Warriors, yeah, not happening. They will be benched here. So we're going to be placing them in the C tier there. And of course, as we continue and finish with the last and final troop here, the Zooka, we're going to be placing Zooka in the B tier. And the reason why we're placing Zooka in the B tier there is because there are actually many times where the Zooka will shine in Warships. Actually, I think Season 43, a lot of players were going Mech and Zooka for, you know, Dirty 3 and 4 engine room gameplay, or at least Dirty 4 engine room gameplay. I'm not sure if the Zookas were available in 3, but you know what? They are incredibly weak and fragile, but, you know, paired with the right troops, you know, a heavy Zooka smoke, you know, to a back left or right corner with, you know, brick or bullet, whether you're using battle orders or taunt, can be super effective with Zookas. Now, Zookas are also not a troop that you're going to be going full Zooka to win with. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. And again, you know, you're not even really relying on the Zookas when, you know, they fall from the rocket choppers when the choppers go down. You know, so pretty much I think they are a nice, well-balanced troop for Warships. Definitely a little bit more on the delicate side. You know what, if their movement speed was a little bit quicker, you know, maybe they might be upgraded a little bit to A tier there, but overall, I think some players do find a use for the Zookas, but a lot of players also don't find use for the Zookas there, so I think B tier is a nice spot for them there. Definitely let me know in the comments if you think otherwise as well, and Skull Army and friends, I think this is my tier list. Also based on the poll that I did put on my channel there, but with regards to the Boom Beach Warships Troops tier list maker. So with the tier list complete here, S tier, we do have the Laser Ranger, the Heavy Chopper, and Seeker ranked. For the A tier, we've got the Bombardier, the Heavy, and the Rocket Chopper ranked. For the B tier, we've got the Rifleman, the Tank, and the Zooka ranked. For the C tier, we've got the Cryoneer, the Mech, the Medic, and the Warrior ranked. And for the D tier, we've got the Grenadier and the Scorcher. Now, if you think otherwise, or if you think I've made any mistakes, or if you think that, no, this troop belongs in this tier, then definitely let me know in the comments, my friends. Now, if you have made it this far into the video, Skull Army, please do not forget to leave a like. It does mean the absolute world to me, it does help the channel grow, and yes, of course, it does appease to our YouTube algorithm overlords. Boom Beach Warship Season 43, Return of the Mech over, with the Void Week beginning. Enjoy your break, Skull Army and friends, because we're going to be jumping right back into the madness for Boom Beach Warship Season 44, the heavy ship. And maybe we'll revisit our tier list and maybe make some changes after that season. But if you guys do like this kind of video, like I said, definitely leave a like on it. Let me know, leave a comment as well. But for now, Skull Army and friends, we will officially be wrapping up today's video. Now I think it's time to make like a Tom and cruise.
I'm an actor.
So we'll catch you guys later. Peace.